I welcome everybody to today's virtual summit, the Customer Experience Virtual Summit. Today we're going to be talking about with leaders that generate loyalty through an effortless experience, and we're excited to bring this event to you by Kustomer, Tethr, and the Challenger Inc. Effortless Experience. We're so excited for this event. It turned out to be just a fantastic overall organization. We have 50 plus speakers. We originally were just going to start with a handful. We've got people like Mario from Vengresso. We've got Shep Hyken, Mary Drummond. The list goes on. We're very thankful for each of the speakers who participated and gave their time during these challenging circumstances that we all find ourselves in. In addition, we now have over 2,000 registrants. From an agenda standpoint, we're kicking off today with the keynote here at 10 a.m., but do know that sequentially you'll have a series of speakers that will be released, and you can find that in the panel that you are currently logged into. So with no further ado, let's dive into today's keynote section. We have 3 guest speakers that will be having a panel discussion, talking about how to manage customer experience in challenging times. We've got Brad Birnbaum, Matt Dixon, and Lauren Pragoff. So with that, let's have each person just briefly introduce themselves and let's get going. Brad, why don't you start?
Hey everybody, Brad Birnbaum, CEO and co-founder of Kustomer. I've been in the customer service space for about 20 some odd years at this point. We've seen a couple cycles of challenging times, nothing like what we're seeing today, but I think this is our opportunity where we can all figure out how to adapt and shine and improve experiences for all. So looking forward to talking more about that today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for joining. Lauren, let's go to you next.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Pragoff, Vice President of Effortless Experience at Challenger, where we work with companies to consult and train their frontline staff on providing low-effort customer service.
Perfect. Matt, to you.
Hey, Gabe, thanks. Lauren, Brad, great to be with you today. Super excited about this virtual summit. Matt Dixon, I'm the Chief Product and Research Officer at Tethr. For those of you who don't know Tethr, we're an AI and machine learning venture out of Austin, and we provide conversational analytics. So helping companies take their unstructured data to surface business relevant insights. And it's, like Brad and Lauren, I've been in the customer service and customer experience space for a long time. And we definitely have seen some peaks and valleys. This is a bittersweet moment for us, I think. Bitter because it would rather be with everyone shaking their hands and be with you live. But the flip side is what a privilege and honor to be with 2,000 people today who are all interested in improving the customer experience and learning about how do we accelerate out of this morass that we're in right now.
Yeah, and that's where we want to dive into. I think that's a good segue. Couple stats I wanted to highlight. A lot of fun research out there, and I want to just throw a few nuggets to kind of set the conversation foundation. 79% of customer service organizations say they're being significantly impacted by COVID. No surprise there. 63% saying they're reporting they actually need to cut costs. And a lot of organizations, almost 20%, are saying their customer inquiries are increasing dramatically during this global pandemic. So with that, I'd love to just kind of start there. It is a different environment. Things are changing. What is kind of the biggest challenge that companies are facing, and how are you seeing them overcome it? Lauren, can we start with you?
Sure. One of the things that we're hearing the most from our clients has to do with shifting to a work from home environment. Remote reps has been a interesting topic of conversation across customer service leaders for the last 15 years. And a lot of organizations have kind of dabbled here and there. But what we're finding is that across the last 6 weeks, there has been just a massive shift in contact center reps working from home. And just like all of us now working from home, that includes balancing childcare and school and partners and spouses also working from home. So, yesterday's remote rep program is not today's work from home environment. And I think we see just leaders spending a lot of time investing in how to make sure that it's going well and that customers are continuing to get the service that they would expect.
Yeah, and I feel like, to your point, work from home isn't anything new, but it's almost, it's accelerated by 200% in kind of these last, 4-6 weeks. Matt, how are companies thinking about solving that problem? I mean, it's obviously here. It's not going away. What have been some of the tips or tactics you're seeing where companies have been able to say, you know what, we're settling in. It's starting to kind of work now.
Yeah, it's funny listening to Lauren talk about work from home. I was talking to a company just last week, and they said, we debated endless PowerPoints and business cases to put together a work from home remote program, and then suddenly, boom, like it just got decided for. So it's, the good news is no more business cases and PowerPoint decks are required to make the case for this. It's funny because, if you look at one of the things we did recently, our data science team at Tethr, we took a sample of a million customer service calls since the WHO declared coronavirus was pandemic on March 11th. And so we looked at it in a 2-week period across 20 companies. And the top line was really bad news, as you can expect. And Gabe, it was the same exact thing you were talking about before. Looking at the level of effort or difficulty of those interactions, we saw them skyrocket, right? So no longer are reps dealing with that one-off kind of issue with that really emotional, high anxiety kind of interaction with the customer. Now it's like, almost every single interaction. It's really critical stuff. It's financial hardship. It's in some cases, questions about insurance coverage, right? Not being able to pay bills, things that are, really, really tough for our customers right now. The flip side, though, as you said, there is good news coming out of this. And the good news is that leading companies and I would say leading service organizations are starting to figure this out, and they're doing it really quickly. So a couple of the things we found, one is equipping frontline workers with the language techniques such that they can reduce effort. So I think what customers are really frustrated by right now is that they're calling in, they're talking to reps, and they feel like the reps are using policies that haven't been updated since the pandemic, right? I can't give you that 3-month bill extension you're asking for. Our policy is 7 days. It frustrates customers. They feel like the reps they're talking to are not empowered to solve those problems. But what we can do is coach our reps on those language techniques that we know, even if it's the same answer you're going to give the customer, even though the policy hasn't changed, you can do a lot to actually manage the perception of effort. 2, we're seeing companies really lean in on the coaching side, and this is absolutely critical right now, is to make sure we are engaged with our reps, not in the one every 2 weeks kind of way that most service organizations do, but on a regular, embedded in the work kind of way, what we call integrated coaching. And number 3, we got to get our reps, even though they're, to Lauren's point, they're working from home, they're all on an island, right? They're by themselves. They no longer have that colleague sitting next to them who they can tap on the shoulder for some help. They no longer have that supervisor they can flag down. We've got to leverage collaboration tools to create that virtual community so that they can leverage the wisdom of peers, because that's going to deliver a better experience. And it's going to make them feel like in this tough environment, they're not alone. So we are seeing some of those tactics start to emerge, and companies are seeing success there.
Man, I personally, the coaching one jumps out to me the most. As we've gone remote, I think that's revealed some weaknesses in some of our coaching aspects, and doubling down and trying to get the tools, techniques to do that, I think is the right approach to go. Brad, we talked about the work from home as a big challenge and some of the things companies are thinking about doing to overcome that. Other challenges you're seeing and tips or tactics on how organizations are trying to overcome those?
Sure. So yeah, just as Lauren and Matt said, we of course are seeing everybody adapt to working from home in a different way. Not only within our company, but our customers' agents, right? We're seeing it across the board. Fortunately, I think there's a lot of good practices you could use. Some we employ real well, right? If you have the right software, whether it be on the CRM side, everything being cloud-based, support side, even if you have some of the modern telephony platforms, they work very well remotely as well. So that's certainly helpful. But in addition to this, we're seeing 2 things at competing odds with one another. We're seeing inbound inquiries accelerating rapidly for a variety of reasons. We're also seeing that some of these companies that are having the higher amounts of inbound inquiries, unfortunately, have had to cut some of their resources for the reasons we all assume, right? So they're at competing odds with higher volumes, but less people to service them. And then I've even heard anecdotes from some companies that do the bigger ones that do take advantage of offshore BPOs, that the offshore BPOs can't keep up. They don't have the same infrastructure that they might have here in the United States. So, as an example, they may not have the ability to work remotely, right? They may not have the computing power or bandwidth. I've even heard anecdotes that in some countries there are physical security issues, right? Where you can't allow your data to be in somebody's home, right? Where other countries maybe not be as safe and stable as we are in the United States. So all those things are playing in. Now, how we've adapted in ways that I think we've helped our customers. Not only have we given anybody who uses the Kustomer platform our ultimate tier for free, which has a whole bunch of great remote working capabilities, things like unlimited collaborators and team pulse to see what your agents are doing and enterprise queuing and routing, all that. But we happened to coordinate the timing of our Customer IQ release, which was on April 1st. It happened to coincide right around this pandemic. And so much of what the world needs now is deflection, artificial intelligence, machine learning, ways to do more with less. Yeah. And we've also given our deflection capabilities. It's part of what we call Customer IQ Lite to all of our customers. It's a part of our free tier, and everybody gets Customer IQ Lite. And we already are seeing, with just the recent release of our deflection capabilities, a pretty significant rate of deflection that people are able to achieve, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, you're able to do a 10 or 20% deflection rate. That moves the needle. That's a significant amount of increase, because people are seeing these bursts, and by having the ability to deflect. And then when you go further and you really take advantage of AI and ML to help with suggesting responses and routing things more correctly and understanding intent of communications better, you can improve your efficiencies dramatically too. And those are the ways. How do you do more with less? That's what we need to all do right now, because we're all out being asked to do more with less. Whether it be less money, less people, we're all being asked to do more with less. And we need to take advantage of the tooling and processes out there to do that. So these are some of the things we're investing in and we're seeing work across our customer base today.
Yeah, I like this. This word, I think, is coming up a lot. It's do more with less. And whether it's using AI to deflect, obviously in some cases, people are having to kind of literally do more with less people. And I'll open this up, but Matt, maybe we could start with you. When we think about doing more with less, how are organizations doing that? AI, we just got maybe as one example. Are there other things you're seeing where people are finding a way to kind of do more with less?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is exciting, and I'm sure this is an area that we'll explore a little bit here, is how do we think about those trends that maybe were kind of bubbling below the surface but are now here to stay. And I think one of them is a shift toward self-service. And I think some of that is wrought by the very long, candidly long hold times that people are having to endure because maybe that BPO is offline because the call center is closed and because of security reasons. And I run into this personally, Gabe. The agents can't actually handle your data from their home location, right? So you're just out of luck. And so instead you're trying to get through to one contact center, doesn't have the overflow capacity, and the wait times are, through the roof. And so what we're seeing is a lot of customers who might have dialed first now going to the website first or the app first. And I think there's a tremendous call deflection opportunity there, or live service deflection opportunity. And I think what's happening, just like coaching, you're seeing companies kind of outed for underinvesting in their digital capabilities. And this is laying bare that, hey, we've been kind of getting by with a subpar digital experience. But when you take away the live service option through the phone and customers go to a digital channel and it's subpar, boy, that creates a really high effort experience. And it's forcing companies, I think, to invest in transform aggressively there. I think you guys probably saw this too, that kind of meme that went passed through LinkedIn like wildfire, which was, which of the following three drove your company's digital transformation? Was it the CEO, B, the CTO, or C?
Oh no, I think I'm the one who passed that. I think I passed that to Brad, actually.
I think you did, yeah.
It's one of my favorites. It is the number one driver for digital transformation right now. Unfortunately, it's rapidly accelerating.
Which is maybe something we all needed, right? It's something we all needed. So we heard a little bit. I like some of the deflection points, and you're seeing that in multiple channels, right? It sounds like in chat and phone. Lauren, as you think about this idea of kind of doing more with less, maybe even on the people side, is there other things people are doing to kind of drive to fruition?
So, it's interesting. I would suggest doing more with less in maybe a slightly different interpretation, because for every company that we're hearing is, slammed with so many contacts, there's at least one other company, maybe 1.5 other companies, who are actually seeing a dramatic decrease in their contact volumes. So in a recent survey that we did, a full third of survey respondents said that their contact volumes had dropped by more than 25%.
Right, it depends. Yeah, that's right.
So doing more with less, doing more with the people with less contacts, right? So what do you do to fill their time to make sure that you're staying productive as an organization? We've heard a lot of really interesting things in that regard. So companies are being proactive. They're reaching out to their customers where maybe they wouldn't have before, helping to either educate them about products or services, or proactively solving problems that they see coming. We're seeing companies sending their people on rotations into other parts of the organization, working on special projects, things of that nature, or even fielding calls from other parts of the organization. So really trying to figure out, how do we do more with the people that we have so that we can keep them busy, we can keep them in their jobs, even though the contact volumes are decreasing.
I like that. Yeah, you're right. There's always two sides to every story. And that you said a third of companies are reporting decreasing. I love the proactive outreach. I think that's always been a best practice kind of customer service support teams, but now more than ever before, it seems to be being pushed to the forefront. I want to see if we can dovetail that into the conversation we were just having about digital transformation. I do think that's worth probably a double click there. Such a trend that now, yes, we've had to go remote, and yes, in some cases we have to do more with less, but as we look going forward, the amount of digital transformation that we're all experiencing has been accelerated, as we were saying. That's kind of the now forefront trend as we move probably into 2020 and 2021. Digital transformation, how are you seeing companies really take grasp of this and own it more to deliver that exceptional customer experience that they all want to deliver? Brad, can we start with you?
Yeah, so one thing that not only is in that theme, but in the theme of doing more with less, is we've seen at Kustomer, we service a lot of great brands, and we're seeing a rapid adoption to asynchronous communication, because it's another way of doing more with less, right? On a little personal anecdote, I recently ordered from one of the large food delivery services, and we increased our order, but the tip didn't increase, and we wanted to increase the tip because we want to do the right thing for that frontline worker bringing us our food, and we couldn't. And there's no way to do it in the app, right? So there's a digital transformation improvement that could happen, right? So I'm like, all right, how do I do this? So went to call, and the only option was to call them to change this, and I had a 2.5 hour hold time, and I said, look, I can't sit on the phone for 2.5 hours, right? Just can't do it. I would love to be able to text you, right? I'd love to be able to send you a Facebook Messenger or a WhatsApp, or even, the way customer chat works, we either work in a synchronous or asynchronous manner, but some asynchronous way to just say, hey, or even an email for argument's sake, I just want to increase my tip from X to Y. Can you do that for me? I don't want to sit on the phone for 2.5 hours. That's crazy. Not going to do it, right? As a matter of fact, I didn't do it. What we did is we left the tip and cash on the door and called it a day, but there's no way I'm going to do that, right? So, but all I wanted was a simple fire and forget, like, hey, increase my tip from X to Y. You guys don't allow me to do it in the app, so give me a simple, low friction, asynchronous way to do it. If I would have been able to text them and get a text back response, even if it was 8 hours later, I would have been super happy with that experience. Instead, I had a pretty poor experience, and I had to go out of my way to take care of that remote worker who was helping my family with food. So there's so many things that can be a part of digital transformation. Some of it is how companies construct their experience within their own products and offerings, right?
But I think
some are just how they allow you to communicate. And we all know how we communicate with our friends and families and loved ones. And it's not only one way. Async communication is super popular now in our daily lives, and in our business lives, like whether it be Slack or you name it, across the board. And it needs to carry through more to how we converse with these businesses we work with and these companies providing support. And we're seeing a huge uptick in Kustomer. We're seeing these async channels going up dramatically. And I think that trend's going to continue.
Yeah, with all that's going on, we may see, I feel like you always see these articles in customer service and sales, is a channel dead? Is the phone finally dead? But the truth is it never, the phone and email still dominate. This might just do it. This might just push some of those channels to the forefront. Maybe you will actually, not dead is too strong of a word for the traditional channels, but Interesting. Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. Wow. Seeing these being pushed to the forefront, you might actually have some competition at the top there. Lauren, thinking about digital transformation, where does your mind go?
Yeah, my mind goes to make sure that you are enabling the right issues in the right channels. So some research that Matt and I both worked on back when we were with CEB really focused on making sure that you're not sending customers down the wrong channel for the wrong issue. So not all issues are well suited to all channels. And making sure that you're enabling the right types of experiences in the right channels is extremely important. Otherwise, what you're doing is just creating a lot of effort for the customer who felt like, oh, I could just shoot off this email and feeling really good about trying to get their issue resolved. Well, 24 hours later, when you get a response and that response says, hey, so sorry, but you're going to have to call us to resolve this issue. That's like, worst case scenario. So don't let the customer send that bad email, right, the first time around.
Yeah, so you can't just roll out all these new channels, for example. You actually have to have a strategy for each of them, or you might kind of ruin the whole experience. Matt, last on digital customer experience, kind of where does your mind go?
Yeah, I think this is, we all know digital and the shift towards self-service has been coming. It's like this big, I'm looking at your background, Gabe, it's like a wave coming crashing down on, on us, right? And so it's true.
That's me, by the way, that on the North Shore.
Of course. I didn't doubt it for a second, so, but it is good that you assured all 2,000 viewers that it was. But I will say, back we studied this in like 07, 08, and what we found was, and Lauren was on this research team at CEB, that 57% of inbound call volume was from customers who were first on your digital channels. They were first on your website trying to solve their problem. Yep. Now, a bunch of those customers were just using your website as an expensive phone book, but more of them, a bigger chunk of that 57%, were actually legitimately trying to find an answer to their problem, or trying to do something online. Fast forward to I think the last time we ran this research about a year ago, that number's like 80%. So customers are really, their digital is the first stop. And increasingly, a lot of those customers are going to non-company sources of information. They're going to YouTube. They're going to unsanctioned sources of advice to get perspective. Like, what's the hack? What's the thing I can do to avoid not just not calling the company, but even going to their website? Like, I want to just try to figure this out on my own. But again, customers are very keen, and their first step is always digital. What I think is really interesting is, I'm totally with Lauren. We've got to make sure the issues are aligned to the channels. And then, Brad's point about asynchronous messaging, this is one where I think we've seen asynchronous messaging has been interesting, because I always thought of it in the original research we ran. It was sort of like a fast email, right? It was sort of a replacement for email, good for kind of binary communications. But I think what's happening now, and I think this is forced on us by the pandemic, is that asynchronous messaging has to grow up, and it has to mature in a really serious way to be able to handle more nuanced, more ambiguous issues that maybe once were handled over the phone with a person, where context and background matters. Yeah. The customer can't get through on the phone for many organizations right now, and they're relying on that asynchronous channel to address that need in as sophisticated a way. Now, the economies of that is a great do more with less, to Brad's point, because we know the number of concurrent chats or WhatsApp exchanges or SMS exchanges a rep can handle is way more than the number of phone calls, which is one. We also know that we can use AI and bots and virtual assistants to automate parts of the interaction. So at least to triage it, maybe siphon off some of those live interactions or those messages, handle it with a bot, but other ones, at least get them to the right rep around the right issue and get that rep teed up so they can grab the baton and finish that exchange and that interaction really quickly. The other thing I would say is don't ignore the importance of getting your static content on your site right. And that is what we find is FAQs, knowledge articles is where kind of issue resolution goes to die very often. One of the most impactful things you can do is simply rewrite all the stuff on your website and write it with language simplicity in mind. We wrote about this in the Effortless experience, and there are lots of great stories of companies who've said, look, we've invested in a lot of self-service technology, but the thing that really got our customers to stay in our website and not get frustrated and pick up the phone and call is when we started writing at a grade 5 to 7 reading level so that customers could absorb that information quickly. And so often our content is laden with, corporate jargon, industry vernacular, stuff that the attorneys made us add in, and it stopped making sense to our customers. And so go back, make it simple, and it'll stick with your customers, and it'll siphon off those live calls.
I like that. I like that. The knowledge base. That stat, 80%, up from 50%. That's a huge number. The last question I wanted to ask before we wrap here, guys, is kind of this technology question. A lot of companies with the changes that have happened have been looking for quick answers. And then a lot of times they have been going to technologies that they feel like maybe can supply that quick up, right? Like, can I do this better than I was doing it before? And oh my goodness, we've heard about stories like Zoom, right? It's like we're all on video and that's skyrocketing. Are there certain technologies, and we don't necessarily need to go into name names, but types of technologies that you feel companies should be thinking about adopting more now than ever before to really make this change more successful? Brad, can we start with you?
Sure. So I think my answer is going to be pretty self-serving.
I was going to do the same thing, Brad. So
I really do think it's going to be a little self-serving, but Kustomer, one of the things we do here at Kustomer is we are a CRM platform. So we aggregate all of the relevant data to provide that rich support experience. And in doing so, the customers, they're going to get their answers faster, right? And as we're ramping up on deflection and machine learning and artificial intelligence and customer IQ, and the bots that we're going to be rolling out shortly, those will take advantage of that data. So when somebody reaches out and says, hey, hey, I'm Brad, and they'll say, oh, Brad, we noticed you ordered a sweater 3 days ago, and it was supposed to be delivered, and it wasn't yet. It's a little late. But guess what? It's out for delivery today. Did we answer your question? Is that what you were reaching out about? Be like, yes. They'll be like, that was an awesome experience, right? Never touched a customer support agent. The customer felt like you knew them. They got their answer right away. Win, 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 win across the board. So when you're able to combine all these siloed pieces of information, these siloed communication channels, all these the siloed knowledge bases even, we're able to combine it all together with amazing data to support it, understanding the customer, these asynchronous and synchronous communication, omni-channel communication methods with RPA like business process automation. When you do all that together, it is a technological shift to improving experiences. It's a technological shift to higher levels of customer satisfaction. It's a technological shift to actually improved agent efficiency. And we've seen this across our customer base, right? We've seen some of our customers say they saw a 20% improvement in agent productivity when they switched to the customer platform. And it's a result of everything I just mentioned, right? It's a result of combining data with omni-channel, with automations, and that is where that magic happens. So that becomes the biggest win, I think, for all parties. Everybody wins. It's the best when the customers win and the company wins. Yeah. And I think that it was so. Yeah, I'd like to think our technology is at the forefront of that, and it's something everybody should be using to help because it is working. So yeah, self-serving, but I couldn't.
It's a little self-serving, but I think there's some nuggets in there, obviously, right?
For sure.
Now more than ever before. When I'm calling organizations, I am probably even a little more frustrated having that contextual information rather than just saying, give me your ticket number. Feels like maybe probably is a little more important. We're a little more on edge than we have been in the past. Matt, let's go to you, and then Lauren will kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. So Brad stole my plan here, which was to also do a self-serving pitch. But I would say,
set myself up for that one.
Yeah, no, but I do. Look, I think it's right. We always say, we love the idea of being low effort for our customers, but it's hard to make the experience low effort if you make the job hard for your reps. Yeah. And if they don't have the right tools, and if they don't have that information, as Brad was talking about, you're asking them to overcome that and then make things easy for the customer. It's a pretty tall order. I mean, where we sit, one of the things we're pretty excited about, and I think this is one of those things that's we've seen over time a slow erosion in like survey response rates, specifically post-call surveys, where most companies are, if they're lucky, in the 10% range, most companies in the low single digits now, and even fewer of those surveys containing actual actionable verbatim. Here's why I gave you the score, the customer effort score, the NPS score. So what we're trying to do is help customers, companies leverage the found data that's sitting all over the enterprise. So recorded phone conversations, chats, emails, case information, the information that sits in customer and extract meaning from that your business partners can take action on, and that you can take action on as a leadership team to improve the customer experience. And I think that's a really powerful place to be. After all, I would argue, and I don't know the latest data, that customers today are even less likely to fill out that survey, especially when they don't know if they're going to get a response back, and they're looking for companies they do business with to do a better job listening to them, using the data they've already got. Now, what I'll say, and this is going to be maybe a tee up for you, Lauren, but I also believe, technology. You talked a lot about technology and self-service and digital transformation, a lot of it being accelerated by COVID-19. I think the knock-on implication of that for our people is very real, which is when the easy stuff or the easier issues go away, what ends up happening, and we've seen this for a while now, and I think this is really going to ramp up with COVID-19, is that what ends up getting through the nets to the live service representative is by definition the most complex issues, the hardest to crack problems, the stuff that couldn't be solved through asynchronous messaging. There was no knowledge article about it, and the customer just has to talk to somebody, and they're going to wait 2 hours on hold to get in touch with that live representative. So how do we equip our people to be successful in that world? And so I think the talent side of things, we can't ignore in the rush to digital. I think digital and rethinking the way we hire and engage and support our front line, those are going to be the two big things that emerge out of this in the new normal of customer service and customer experience.
I think that nothing more needs to be said, Lauren. That's a good probably segue to you.
Yeah, we like to say here at Challenger that in a world driven by technology, your people matter more than ever. The idea that technology is great, but to Matt's point, what it's doing is it's siphoning off all the easy issues, and what's left is your reps getting a barrage of really complex issues, really angry and upset customers. And the other thing with technology is inevitably there's going to be a failure somewhere along the way, whether it's the technology's fault, whether it's your infrastructure's fault, something is going to happen, or maybe it's a user error, right? Your reps don't know how to use the platform that they have. When that happens, are your reps equipped to have a human-to-human interaction that provides a low-effort service experience? So I think that companies need to be thinking not only about the skills that they're training their reps on, but also how are they keeping their reps engaged, because their job is getting harder, not easier.
Yeah. I like it, you guys. A lot of great information talked about today. I think it'll be a great day. Fun to kick it off with Lauren, Brad, and Matt and talk about how to really manage, be successful with customer service during these challenging times. So for the audience, thanks so much for participating. For the speakers who've taken their time, donated their time to help all of the different customer experience and service leaders figure out the best way to go forward and optimize their current environments. Thank you for that. And with that, we'll sign off and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good.